Hey y'all, it's Heel Heat time.
Hi everybody and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles and this is our TNA episode for the week. Before we get into the show, I want to just mention something. There was no show last week, and the reason was I got a really bad case of food poisoning. I appreciate all you guys that went out and came to me on social media, asked if everything was okay. That really made me feel awesome. It really made me appreciate why I do this show, why I reach out to connect with you guys, and thank you. It helped me get through a pretty bad week, actually. But I just wanted to say thank you for everybody that reached out and wanted to know how I was doing and why there wasn't a show. But anyway, right into the actual show. Now we're going to go into the so-so portion. Basically, if you've seen the show before, it's the stuff that's neither bad nor good. It's just there. And the one thing I had an issue with, but not too large of an issue, you had Tigre Uno versus Bram. Now, if you watch the show a couple times before when Tigre Uno's been on, you know that I'm extremely impressed with him. So here's the issue I have. You have a less than 5-minute squash match with Bram going over on Tigre Uno, who I think could be a future star, could be a flag bearer for the X Division, you know, could be the next Rey Mysterio. I didn't like that. I did like them making Bram look as strong as he looked. I thought that was great. So, overall, it kind of balanced each other out. The bad of Tigre Uno and the good of Bram made it so-so. And then you had the after the match where he was going to beat him down with the ring rope thing. But Magnus stopped him and said, why don't you face Willow next week, which we got next week. Which I'm sorry, Bram, but I'll probably have to give you a bad score on that because I hate the Willow character. Next up, we have our bad portions of the night. Now, because the way I do my show, some things are a little bit out of order. The second time we see a mass in-ring gathering, we have Dixie Carter with a EC3 MVP. She calls out MVP, which brings out Kenny King and Bobby Lashley with him, and they want to have a summit, talk about how they could join forces, or she could go to the Board of Governors, which brings out Eric Young and Bully Ray, which leads to MVP making a match with Bully Ray and Eric Young later, and if they don't wrestle, Bully Ray is fired. This all could have been handled in the opening segment, which I'll actually touch on a little bit later here. They could have addressed this and kept it all one segment, compacted it, and not wasted so much TV time. That's the problem I have with this. To me, it was just redundant to keep bringing the same group of characters out and out again. Last week, there was an exception with all the attacks that MVP's new group was doing. It made sense because it was kind of like the NWO, where they would attack several times in a show. That's okay. You come out and do so very similar segments 2-3 times a night, it gets redundant and boring, and it makes the casual viewer want to change the channel. Which leads us up to the next thing I had on the bad segment, the Beautiful People versus Gail Kim and Brittany. The match itself was okay, wasn't nothing special. The weird way that Brittany tagged herself in and then ended up getting lost and stayed in the ring, called out Madison Rayne, basically told her, I want to be with you. Why don't you like me like I like you? Kind of weird love triangle or love angle they're going for. I don't know, then you had the Beautiful People chiming in about that. It just didn't work for me. It seemed too scripted, too acted, and not enough general emotion, not enough general care. If you watch back the Mickie James and Trish Stratus story, where she has a crush on Trish Stratus, that played out well. It got you emotionally invested. we didn't feel that lead up where there were hints of Brittany being interested in Madison Rayne. We just felt that she was looking at her as a mentor, which the whole thing was kind of weird. The way that Madison interacted with it, I don't know. I didn't like it personally. Now, coming off of that, we're going to go into our question of the week. It's actually from 2 weeks ago. Like I said, didn't do the show last week. What do you think of all the outside videos, the stuff that's happening outside of the TNA? How do you think it impacts the overall product? We have some answers from our friends. First is from Zombies40. The segments outside of TNA I think have been interesting as long as they have an interesting theme, and as long as they are interesting, then I'm okay with it. Pretty simple and plain, right to the point. Next is from our friend Silver84. I like that TNA does these segments away from the Impact Zone. They make it seem more like a movie at times, which is kind of cool in my opinion. I like that too. I actually enjoy it. I think doing different things like that, doing like they used to do with Alex Shelley and the camera, it doesn't give us the same wrestler goes to the ring, calls out wrestler does backstage segment, gets jumped backstage, gets jumped in the parking lot. You give us a little bit of different. Even last year when they had the quote-unquote Aces Nates hangout, which was probably just a different part of the set, it gave us something different. It gave us something that we didn't see. Going to the insane asylum with Samuel Shaw, going to Samuel Shaw's home, seeing Nux in his hometown with his family, gathering up for the menagerie, Bully Ray going to TNA offices, going to Dixie Carter's house. The whole thing just adds a little vibe to the show, gives it a little bit more of an unpredictability, and also, if they're smart, they'll keep those segments off the show till it airs when they do the tape shows, so it's something that doesn't hit the spoilers. I like them personally, and I agree with what everybody says. As long as they're done well, they're good for the show. Now, the question of the week for this week is, we've seen a new group rise to power: MVP, Bobby Lashley, and Kenny King. So far, they haven't said a name, and I don't read the spoilers, so if it's something that comes out on a taped episode over the next 2 weeks, I'm sorry. I don't read spoilers, so I don't know if they've named the group. My question is what would you name the group? What would you call their threesome? Let us know what you think. Hit us up on Facebook, hit us up on our Twitter, put it down where? Down in the comments, right down there. Hit the like button, share this as well. Get our name out there for everybody to watch. Now we're going to go into the good portion, like the stuff I actually liked. And I touched on it a bit ago when I was talking about the bad portion. The opening segment with Bully Ray and the tables, I thought that was cool. They brought out MVP, King, and Lashley. They brought out EC3 and Rockstar Spud, which were basically everybody he named that he wanted to put through a table, which then brought out the faces, Eric Young, Austin Aries, and the Wolves. Led to what we're going to see going next. We had a three-way match between the American Wolves and Austin Aries versus MVP, King, and Lashley. Like I said, when the opening segment's done well and done good to set up the show, it works good. When you have something cool like the thing with the Bully Ray and the tables, that made it interesting. That's different. I don't need to see heel MVP in the ring opening the show every week, and he didn't. And now we get a little bit off of that. We get match made, which leads right into Austin Aries and the American Wolves versus MVP, King, and Lashley. The heel team, King, Lashley, and MVP, pick up the win, solidify that they are a force to be reckoned with, whether it's the odds are fair or unfair. I liked what they did. I liked how they did it. I liked that they went after the injury on Davey Richards. I liked that they tried to injure the other two guys. I thought it was a well put together match and a good thing for the storyline going forward. Now, coming off of that there was a tag match that I actually really enjoyed. The Bromans versus Gunner and Mr. Anderson. Before the match, we see Anderson asking Gunner why he's trying to reach out to Sammy Shaw, which Gunner says, I know people that have been in there, and I'm just trying to see if we could help them get back to normal. Maybe putting in our minds that there eventually will be a rift between the two. I liked the match. I thought it was a great match. I think the Bromans are a damn good tag team and don't quite get the respect they deserve because of the gimmick that they're in. But these guys are getting better and better, and they're probably one of the top 10 tag teams in the world, in my opinion, right now. I really enjoy them, and I think Gunner and Anderson are two guys that if I were running TNA, they would be in the epicenter of the promotion. They'd be two guys I would use and bank on to sell tickets and sell pay-per-views and sell merchandise. After the match, we have the Bromans in the ring. The menagerie comes out, which leads to Zema Ion getting, or DJZ, or whatever they're going to call him now, catching a choke slam from the Freak. Going forward, I think that'll be a fun feud for the show. I think it'll be interesting to see these two so different groups go up against each other, and it'll be something cool and something fun. A lot of what we forget about wrestling is how fun it can be. I mean, yeah, we all want to see that wrestling classic match where the Steamboat versus Savage, the Shawn Michaels versus Bret Hart, Steamboat versus Flair. We all want to see those matches, and we love those. But sometimes just goofy fun, for the hell of it, when done right, just makes you happy. And I think that the Bromans and the Menagerie going against each other, that's going to be fun, it's going to be goofy, and it's going to be something that you smile about and something that you enjoy, in my opinion. Could go all the way south, though. Last but not least, we have the main event of the night, Bully Ray versus Eric Young in a non-title match with Ethan Carter III as the guest referee, Kenny King as the guest ring announcer, Bobby Lashley as a guest enforcer, and MVP as a guest timekeeper. Kind of weird that we just seen something similar with Evolution on WWE's show, but I digress. I don't know if this was taped before that, WWE took their idea, or they took WWE's idea. It's an idea that's bounced around forever. Ever since factions rose to power, they've abused their power, and always something like this is one of the ways. I thought it was a really enjoyable match. I thought the attack afterwards, where Bully Ray just had enough of Ethan Carter and kicked him in the face, then leads to the faces getting the beat down, which brings out the returning Samoa Joe. I liked it for a lot of reasons. I liked the fact that it looks to be that they're going to put Samoa Joe back on the pedestal where he needs to be as an unstoppable force in TNA. And I enjoyed it. I liked how they went off the air. It left us satisfied with a good, all-enclosed, just a solid show from top to bottom, really, in my opinion. So we're going to go right into the ratings on it. Now, if you've seen the show before, you already know this. If not, I'll explain it to you. We have a 1 to 5 scale. 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. 1's a Dixie Carter, 2's a Rockstar Spud, 3's a Gunner, 4's a James Storm, 5's a Bobby Roode. I'm going to give the show a 4, a James Storm. Very little I didn't like. I almost felt a little bit nitpicky when I was going over reviewing it because there was so much I did like. And kind of felt like I was nitpicking to find stuff I didn't. But overall, a really good show, solid. You had fun segments, you had good wrestling segments, you had good brawling, you had the main storyline going forward pushing forward into interesting territory. I think it was great. I really enjoyed this. I wish every TNA was up to this level. Every Impact Wrestling. But overall, a really great show. But basically, that's all I have to say about that. My name is George Coles, and this has been another episode of Heel Heat.